All right, we'll go ahead and get started with the July 28th Moab City Council meeting. Jason Taylor, Mayor Pro Tem, filling in for Mayor Langanese, who is out of town this week. We will call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And we've asked Miles to start us out.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We'll now open it up to public comments. Is there anyone here who is here to make public comments tonight? All right. No? All right. Then we'll move on to item number 3.1, which is a presentation by Utah State University.
For you. Which one like this?
Oh, thank you. Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, I didn't think I know.
Oh, game over.
Oh. I wasn't expecting that public comments today, so I did.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you.
Gifts are an excellent way to start.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I have to connect. Okay. Very good. Okay, so I'm gonna join the Zoom super quick. I think I'm in the waiting room.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, I left the audio. Am I good? Okay, perfect. So I'll share my screen right now. Good evening, everyone. My name is Maria Velasco. I'm a faculty at USU Extension Home and Community. I'm an assistant professor there. And today I'm gonna be presenting just a very quick presentation and a summary of everything that Home and Community has done for the last 3.5 years since I came to this position. And yeah, so that's what I'll be doing today. So let me share my screen if it allows me to do it. And I apologize for my crappy camera. I don't know what's wrong with it today. Okay, I might do that. Okay, perfect. And I also apologize for my voice. I think there is something around in Moab that was confirmed today by the doctor. So, but I'm not contagious to anyone, so that's why I'm here today. So yeah, I'm representing USU Extension Home and Community, as you can see it in the slides. I wanted to add agriculture and natural resources and 4-H because that's also part of USU Extension in every county in Utah. But as I said before, I'm presenting today because I'm the Faculty of Home and Community, but if in the future you want some information about agriculture and natural resources projects and 4-H, I can give you the emails of my colleagues. We have a great team here at USU Extension, and of course, we don't have enough time today to add everything from all 3 departments, but we'll be welcome to bring more presentations here at the City Council meeting. Okay. So again, my name is Maria Velasco. My background is in public health and public administration. I'm the CUBE program director. That's why you have a little cube there. And also, I'm the lead of the Roots program that I will explain in a little bit. Our team has grown a lot since we started projects. So we have Yatrice Harvis, she's our coordinator, Leslie Strata, Jason Lemos, one of our program interns for this summer. We also have Ricky Vigalle, He's our program coordinator for 2 of our programs, youth programs here. And then we have a couple of community health workers that are in different counties, and one of them here in Grant County that just finished one of our projects. So today, I'm just gonna do a quick summary of the different programs we have. I'm going to start with youth career preparation that we have done from Home and Community in partnership with 4-H, which is our youth program. So in here, you can see that thanks to our programming, because we do the outreach to families right there where they are, we have done more than 50% of the 4-H enrollment has been part of those efforts of outreach that we have done. Moab, it's a very special community that likes face-to-face. So you can see that social media can work with families, but also that one-on-one with parents to understand what needs the youth have. And thanks to that, we have way more than 100, that's kind of all the 70 plus youth career exploration, youth that have explored career programming that we do. We take youth to different universities, we take them to University of Utah Dental School and different programs that you cannot find here at USU. I also want to say that thanks to all the efforts that we have done, we have been awarded all 3 years in a row, because we also got the one from this year, as the county and the city that has the most accessible 4-H and youth programming in the entire state. So we have been recognized for the past 3 years with that, because we opened the doors to youth and families for everyone. We adapt to what the youth and families need. And then we were very excited because thanks to all those efforts with all our team, we got a regional award. And thanks to the city too for having a couple of letters for us for some of the grants and some of the awards that we have applied. And also for the mayor that has big projection for public health and everything that has to do with education and youth. And we just got this news 2 weeks ago that we got the expanding the 4-H audience, creating opportunities for all state and regional award. So we are very excited for that. And Grant County and Moab, it's being recognized everywhere for these efforts. What we do with this program is different type of programming. I won't have enough time to list all of them. Some of them are Saturday Academy with University of Utah. We took around 30 youth from Grant County and San Juan County in partnership with them too, to explore in the labs of dental school how to do cleanings, and I think I have a great picture here where they were able to even explore with the actual labs that they have there, health professions, surgery, etc. So those are the type of programs that we support. Of course, we have support from the county because USU Extension works directly with the county. That's how it is. That's how it is in all counties, but also through grants that we have applied as faculty. Another great opportunity that youth in Grant County have had before, for the past 3 years, we have Grant County youth presenting in Washington, D.C. in front of 1,200 youth. And in connection with all the states, they have represented Utah in these different presentations. We have one of them here, it's Jason. He started as one of those youth, and now he's an intern. He has graduated, and he's doing college. So that's what we want to see with all youth. And with the support, of course, of the city too, we have the mayor and Jason have seen that in all of our different initiatives, we always try to find support of letters or anything that the city can do to back up our work. And it has worked a lot because we have that recognition everywhere. We have pathways to higher education. We do, I already talked about the Ignite National Leadership event. And I can tell you that the youth in Grant County have a lot of potential, and everyone was very excited to see the presentation they did with those Rubik cubes. They talk about belonging and resilience, and other youth from other states were able to learn that. So we have to be very proud of the youth here and all the future that they have. That's some of the programs that I already mentioned. We also, of course, focus in youth prevention and wellness. As I said before, my focus is public health. That's where I specialize. And since I had a conversation with the mayor when I just moved here to Moab, That has been a great common topic. Health access is very important, not just from the treatment perspective, but from the prevention perspective. And we do that in USU Extension Home and Community. We have a program called Be Epic Skate, the VAPE program, where we work with the Southeast Health Department. And we have different teaching opportunities. We do some programming for youth, for parents, and for teachers to help the prevention of vaping with youth, because we know that rural communities are more exposed to those different health issues, or are at more risk to those behaviors. This is a very exciting program that I just want to announce. It's a Roots program, and it's a Roots Youth Outdoor Initiative that we are starting. We just hired our program coordinator, and the goal of this program is to give access to outdoors to youth that usually don't have access to, right? Like, that's some of the issues that we can see with some of the youth that believe outdoors can be something very expensive. So we did get a grant from UCOR to be able to run this program for a year here in Grand County. The goal is that we will have youth from all the state come once a year to do a Roots retreat here in Grand County with all that funding that we have, and also support local youth to have access to nature, to outdoor programs, and to be able to also do career exploration if they are interested in outdoors. This is very exciting one too that I want to point out. I don't know if some of you are related with or are aware of some of the programs that community health workers do. Community health workers are community workers that connect communities to any type of systems. And right now we have some funds from the State Department, the Utah State Department of Health, to train youth to become youth health ambassadors. So these youth will follow a similar curriculum that the community health workers statewide do. They are licensed, they are under a bill, they are recognized as a health employee, and youth will be able to explore this and be able to be youth health ambassadors, and also be peer-to-peer with other youth in topics that are very interesting for youth, or that youth are going through. And again, I think I'll just talk super quick about this. You can see Jason in this picture. I'm gonna zoom it in. Jason, sorry if this was in 2024. Thanks to the city, Jason, and all of you for accepting the letter. We were able to apply for the Get Healthy Utah 2024 designation. Moab has plenty of programs that make us qualify for that designation. USU was able to lead the application. You were able to approve the letter that the major draft. And then Jason was able to come with me to Salt Lake City to receive this designation. Next year, Jason, we will have to go and renew this, and Grand County and Moab, the city of Moab, will have to just submit a report of what we have done to maintain Moab healthy. So that was also part of all the programming we have done. And please let me know if I'm going over time. Another part of home and community, and again, this presentation might be a little bit overwhelming, but I just wanted to kind of point out the main programming that we do. We do food preservation and emergency preparedness. We do have a freeze dryer there at USU, and we have a lot of community members coming to get certified to be able to use it and have access to foods and food preservation. We also do have classes for canning, fermenting, food storage and packaging. And I'm not an expert cooking or in food preservation. I took the Master Food Preservation certificate, and I was yelled out because I didn't know how to cut an onion. But we have around 100 or 50 or 70 faculty that are experts in food preservation that respond to all the questions that I have and that the community has right away. We do have a work group. So we have had, right now, we're just helping a community member that rented the freeze dryer for the entire week. She's gonna do a backpacking trip, and she's trying all these different foods and has access to this. So that's a community program that we have right now. And then again, community health workers programming. We have trained community health workers and certified them through the state with the Department of Health and the Utah Community Health Worker Association. This certificate allows community health workers to be recognized as health workers in the state under one of the bills that passed in 2022. And now we want to apply that with youth so they can have access to work, right? And again, all of you have the CUBE there. The CUBE program, it's the last thing I want to talk about. I'm the director and creator of this program. This program actually leads community health workers in USU Extension as a innovative model. We believe that the communities who has the power and community members are the ones that can help us take the message to the community. So all the programs that we have are taken by community health workers to homes. We don't want the community to come to us. We are not sitting in the office waiting for them to come. We really go out there. And that's how successful this has been. We have around 400 bilingual CHWs in the entire state willing to review our curriculum, to volunteer, etc. And also, they have been able to do 2,500 applied practice hours to extension programs statewide. And we want that the youth here in Moab and other community health workers have access to that. Some of the funding that we have right now, and I'll end with this, we do have some internal funding that supports the CUBE program that will be done this year. We also have the BEPIC, Cape the Bay funding from the Department of Health. A couple of we do have support to have our intern through USU Extension funding internally. And we'll be launching a couple of health programs through University of Utah that will have 13,000 total to be able to hire some program coordinators to help with clinical partners to lower the risk of obesity in youth. As I mentioned before, we have the Utah Children's Outdoor Recreation and Education Grant for this year, where we are hoping to engage more than 200 youth here in Moab, and the Utah Health Improvement Plan that will support community youth health worker program. So that's kind of a summary of everything we do. When I did this presentation, we didn't have our medical interpreting program done yet, but we did finish that last week, if I'm not wrong, and we graduated around 13 people from Moab and a couple from out of the city and a couple from San Juan County. That was the first medical interpreting program here in Moab, and it took us 2 years to plan that with different programming internally in USU. I just want to say thank you to the city because you are always there for us when we need a support letter, when we need support for our programming. And I just wanted to let you know all the programs that we have at Home and Community. And if you have any partners or if you want to partner with us in anything, we're very happy to do so. As you can see, we're everywhere. We do youth, we do food preservation, we do nutrition, diabetes prevention, but that's the beauty of USU Extension. So thank you so much for the time. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And you are welcome to keep the cubes and take them home. We have a huge one. And with that one, youth presented in Washington. And it's a hustle to take that one to Washington, D.C., but they love it. Yeah. Yeah, any questions?
No, thank you.
Great work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So the people that graduated with the medical program, most of those people, will they find jobs that are remote that they'll stay here?
There are a lot of jobs that are remote. They can work actually, they do pay very well. They can work through agencies and do remote interpretation.
Nice. So
Yeah.
most of those people will stay in the community.
Yeah, and most of them, that's the beauty of that program. So we have people from the school that already have done interpreting for the school. We have interpreters from the Moab Multicultural Center. We have 2 interpreters from the Moab Free Clinic. We have 1 interpreter that is working at the hospital. So all of them have a job here already.
Nice.
And they just wanted to add to what they're doing. And 2 of them are high school graduates that I'm very proud that they finished this program. And they are planning to stay here in Moab. So I'm not taking away anyone. I'm
No.
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
That's a great question. But yeah, they do have the opportunity to do remote work. And actually that certificate, it's approved to have the license number under Utah. USU in general, the World Languages Department of USU that partner with us, they give you a number and that's a license you have and you're certified to be a Utah interpreter, not just USU. So it's a great help. And most of them that are already interpreting, they said, oh wow, like what I learned here, I wasn't applying it, but now that I can do it more like accurate or I can follow the guidelines that I need. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for the questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe else anything?
And sorry if it was very overwhelming.
No. Well, thank you for coming and thank you for appreciating it.
Yeah, and I'm planning on sending virtual copy of our report so you can have more details of all the programs that we have. Because
All
we
right.
do have more than that, but it's very, very overwhelming to do in 15 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. All right. Next we have item number 4, department update with Levi in the Public Works Department. Well, Levi's come up here, I'd like to recognize the mayor who's online, watching through Zoom.
Good evening, council. Jason. A moment while I try to share. Okay, so a quick update, Public Works update regarding flood preparation. Start off with detention basin. So a big part of the flood prep is maintaining our retention and detention basins. Just as a reminder, the difference between detention and retention. Detention has an overflow spillway. They both collect sand and sediment. And retention retains the water. It doesn't have an overflow. So the big ones are Skakel, Stewart Canyon, Johnson's, Whites, Tusher, and Walker. All 6 of these are detention. The one at the golf course is a retention. It doesn't have a storm inlet. We inspect these regularly, and especially after a storm. This last June, DEQ came down and we walked all of them with engineering and streets, and had a couple of maintenance things we needed to address, but overall they all passed. This is Skakel, so starting north of town going south. This is Skakel, Stewart Canyon. This one's our smallest, but it has a concrete bottom, so it's the easiest to clean. One of the maintenance issues with this one is when these heavy storms come in, it washes debris, the floating debris, so wood, tumbleweeds. Because it's so shallow, it plugs up that inlet and flows down Cermak and floods the highway. Unfortunately, we're not able to man this during storm events because of the safety issue, but this is one of the challenges with this one. Tusher, lots of capacity. This one's in really good shape. Walker, same. A little bit of sediment removal going on there. Still in pretty good shape. This one is the retention in the golf course. Also spillways. That's a big maintenance for flood prep, is making sure this is Bird's Ditch, making sure the ditch is clean of debris. Drainage on Doc Allen. This isn't ours, but it wasn't maintained. So this is the before picture. And this is a middle of the event while we were cleaning it out. The inlet to the right, that storm inlet, was buried under 4 foot of sediment. So that's why Doc Allen and Mountain View were getting flooded. Moving forward, that will not happen. A big part of flood preparation is also making sure the Mill Creek and Pat Creek corridors are clean of debris. This past few months, we removed a lot of a lot of those materials. We also installed flood warning signs recently at every creek entrance. They're locked in place, so you don't know they're there till a flood comes, and then we unlock them and show them off. This is an example of what we pulled out of the creek the last couple of months. This is between the confluence and 500 West. This is the machinery we purchased with the CWDG grant and the mulcher attachment. The debris that we weren't able, this is taking care of the debris we weren't able to haul away. It's mulching.
So the city owns that?
Yes.
Yes.
These are the flood ahead signs.
And I'll say too, the city owns that, but we do have an agreement with the fire department where they can use it. We've worked something out with them so that they can use it as well. We want this to be used as much as possible. The reason we purchased it is to clean up this debris.
That's right. Flood signs
Nice.
and sandbags. So we have 4 convenient locations throughout town. Emma Boulevard, Rotary, that's placed at the former Red Rock property. 100 East, by the Groff Bike Skills Park. All these are available 24/7. We have another station at Public Works, Monday through Friday 8 to 4. I want to point out, we have 3 pallets full of sandbags at the Groff Park between the restrooms right there in the Groff Park. We've had issues with those sandbags. They're easy access, they're full, but they're walking off, they're disappearing. The purpose of these sandbags is to dam up the pathway right there so it doesn't flood down 100 East, 100 South, and then onto Main Street. So if our residents can kindly leave those sandbags, we'd appreciate it.
Those are just the ones on the pallet,
Correct, just on the
are
pallet.
away from the pile.
Yep, they're roughly 100 feet away from the pile, but they're full.
And were they signed? Sorry.
Similar question.
We did have signage, there were tarped, those materials disappeared as well as the sandbags. And so we're consistently trying to restock.
Got it.
They're understocked at the moment, actually.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
sandbags, so volunteers, we had 2 groups this year, one from the Stake Center in Payson. The boys come down and camp, and while they're here, they do some community service. They spend a couple hours filling 150 sandbags. The high school football team did some community service last week. On Friday, they filled roughly 400 bags. Some helpful tips: when you're filling bags, please close the containers. The sun deteriorates these bags. It's a very, very fragile material that they're made out of. So the sun eats them up pretty quick. So keep the container on them. It doesn't destroy the bags. Also, when you take your bag, just helpful tips. Take your bags home, either cover them or keep them out of the sun, and then inspect them periodically because they do fall apart, deteriorate quickly in the sun. Residents, so if you need help with sandbags, reach out to Public Works. You can make arrangements at call 257-7485, make arrangements. If you need help, if you can't lift them, can't transport, can't fill them, we will do that for you. This is what the football team did. That was the fully stocked pile of sand, and there's roughly 400 bags right there. So this is that Rotary. These are the other 3 stations. Any questions?
No, I was gonna say, I noticed that flood sign the other day. I was walking up the bike path and I saw it. I'm like, what is this? And I kind of opened up inside there and I was like, because it was padlock closed. But I'm like,
It's supposed to shock you.
oh, it was? Oh, there's a little shock that.
No, but
Oh.
we have put them down once this year already.
Yes, a couple weeks ago. That first storm that was kind of hovering over Pat Creek and Mill Creek. Just we put them out during that event, and fortunately didn't need them.
Nice, yeah.
So in regards to that Stewart detention basin, is that the one that's concreted on the bottom?
Yes.
Is there a reason you couldn't build like a metal cage up and above that outlet to keep more of that debris from getting clogged up on top of it?
Yep.
Like just for longer. I know at some point the debris will essentially overwhelm anything you build there, but just a thought.
We have them at at two of the others, and it's kind of hit and miss. The biggest issue is the tumbleweeds. They come
Yeah,
down
they
in
collect
masses.
the
and-
sand and muck and everything. else.
Yeah, and so it clogs them up pretty quick. But yeah, good idea.
Nice. No, thank you so much for this. I think this helps a ton. I think we get questions all the time asking, just walking around town and stuff about what's going on with flood mitigation. And yeah, it's great to be able to say this is going on and this is going on and stuff like that. There's a lot of, I think, good things that are slowly moving down the pike to help, with flood mitigations. So thank you.
Yeah, with the lack of recent storms or lack of heavy storms, we've been able to get caught up on basin maintenance. We're currently working on Johnson's, so gain more capacity in that one soon as well.
Yeah, and all these things that Levi presented are in addition to the big projects that you just mentioned that we've done over the last couple of years in Mill Creek. And if you go up to Rotary Park, you can see a lot of what was done. You go down to the garden, the youth gardens, there's a big project there, and then several other bridges that have been cleaned out and some shoring that's been done throughout the city. So this is all in addition to that. And good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Levi.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Council.
Thank you, Levi.
So that moves us into the consent agenda. And I don't know, with the consent agenda, if we want to talk about really briefly 5.1, which is in the consent agenda, which talks about flood mitigation and the assistance for a grant match letter.
Yeah, so this is another grant match letter, which we're looking for funding for completing the feasibility study for the downtown portion of Mill Creek. So we have a big project that we have on Third South Bridge, which extends up and down the creek a little ways. And then we have a big project where we've been doing feasibility and want to move into design soon, from Main Street to Fifth West. And then there's the section by Woody's where a lot of work has been done, where we do need to add that to the projects that we're working on right now. This grant would help fund that. I also want to mention that Senator Curtis's office in DC has helped out quite a bit with getting us on a list of some to help fund some water projects or resiliency projects for stormwater within our community. Where we are right now is we've been named in this this bill that still is making its way through, but looks like it's going to go through. And what it'll allow for us to do is to have feasibility dollars so that we can help plan these things out, get to the point where we have actual bids where we can go out to bid and potentially get funding from FEMA as well with the larger projects. So we're really excited about that. This works towards that end, but this is not the federal funding that we're looking at through the efforts of Senator Curtis.
All right, so there's that is incorporated into the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Can motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, Colin makes a motion to approve the consent agenda. I have a second. Tawny seconds. Any discussion?
I have one just quick thing looking at this letter, wondering if it's a typo. Is the city committing $125 or?
Yes.
Yeah.
We fixed it.
We did fix that. I was supposed to mention that as well. The comma's in the right spot there,
And
but
we
the
had a
zero, there is a zero missing. So it is fixed on the letter that Jason will be signing, or the mayor will be signing, whoever's signing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye. So it passes 5-0. All right. Moving on to general business. So it's general business. We will have a public hearing for resolution 12-2026, a resolution amending fiscal 2026-27 final budget, and I will open up the public hearing. Is that correct?
Yeah.
At 6:35.
Am I good to go?
Yes.
Okay. So as I mentioned in the staff report, this is an amendment to the final budget that was approved by the city council earlier this year. This is the current budget that we're in right now. We finished the budget a little bit early. I think it gave the state a little bit of time to look at our budget a little closer, which we appreciate. And like I said, they gave us a complimentary review of our budget, which pointed out a few inconsistencies that we have an opportunity to fix now. The inconsistencies that they identified had a lot to do with transfers between funds. They're in the somehow in the enterprise funds, transfers were made without the expense was in the debt service. These were all related to debt service for all of the enterprise funds, but the transfer did not show coming out of the enterprise fund. So that's something that needed to be fixed. And then there was a lot of terminology issues, and I think these have been lingering for quite some time. And there's a lot of difference in the way different people who've done the budget describe the same exact thing. For instance, in my staff report, I mentioned the term overhead. Overhead internally, we know what that means, but as far as GASB, which is the Government Accounting and Standards, they don't recognize that as being what we think it is. It's actually internal service fees. So when an enterprise fund pays an internal service fees, it's paying for admin services that it receives from the city hall, for attorneys, for administration, things like that. And they asked us to just bring those in line with GASB to make them consistent throughout the board. I listed all of the changes, and I've highlighted all the changes within the budget so that you could look at those things. Mostly this is related to the enterprise funds. There was some slight changes that we did to the general fund because we did modify some transfers so that we're transferring directly from CIP to the RAP tax instead of transferring from CIP to the general fund and then back to or from RAP tax to the, anyways. It was convoluted, so convoluted that I can't remember exactly how it was, but it is listed in the memo. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any of those. No additional charges as a result of this. This does not change the budget as far as your priorities or anything like that. This just straightens out a few inconsistencies, which makes our budget much stronger and much better. And we do appreciate the opportunity to be able to do this and to have a really solid budget.
All right. Anybody have any questions or comments? And this is open to the public. Anybody from the public would like to make a statement or be heard? No. Okay. So do we want to go ahead then and make a motion to approve 6.2 then? Is that
Yeah.
going to that?
So did you close the?
So we close the public hearing. Okay. So I'll go ahead and close the public hearing then on resolution 12.6, amending the fiscal year final budget. Okay, and it'll be closed at 6:38. Okay.
All right. So we'll just
Moving on.
Yeah, well, we need a motion to
approve.
approve this. This is actually a budget amendment. This will become our final budget. It will not show up as a budget amendment. It will be our final budget.
So the proposed motion then it would be to adopt the recommended amendment to the fiscal year 2026-2027 final budget as presented by staff.
That's right.
Okay. Anybody want to make that motion?
I move to adopt the recommended amendment to fiscal year 2026 to 2027 final budget as presented by staff.
Do you get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Miles. All right, Caitlin, you have any comments?
No.
Miles?
No.
Anyone else?
Good.
Okay. I'll go ahead and call for a vote to approve the recommended amendment for the fiscal year 26-27 final budget is presented by staff. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes to 5-0. Okay. Now we on 6.2 or is it?
Yeah, we're 6-3.
6.3.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, consideration of approval appointments to the Moab City Planning Commission.
Damn, so excited.
Do you want to be on the planning commission? think Joe has.
Okay, the mayor is,
I'm here.
okay, you want to
Yeah.
take us over?
Yes, I will. So we had 4 applicants for 2 seats, vacancies on the planning commission. Normally, these seats are 3-year terms, but we're filling 2 seats where they were not, they had to leave, and so they didn't fulfill their term. So these positions are only going to be for 2 years, and of course, if applicants want to reapply, it'll go back to the 3-year term. So their terms will be through December 31st, 2028. We had a great group, 4 great applicants. It was really a difficult decision. I decided, though, after interviewing all of them, one candidate actually withdrew his name because he was traveling and it was just becoming kind of cumbersome. Hopefully that person will reapply. And hopefully the other candidate that I'm not going to recommend will reapply also. As I said, they were all really good candidates. The first person I'd like to recommend is Robin Vincent. I believe she's in the chambers. So if you would like to have her, excuse me?
She's here.
Okay, so if you would like to talk to her, she's there for you. The other person I'm recommending is Matt Hebert, who is out of town, so he wasn't able to come to the meeting tonight. But those are my recommendations. Robin Vincent, she can tell you about herself if you'd like to learn about her. And Matt used to be the owner of Rim Tours with Kirsten Peterson, and now he's doing other things, but really would like to serve on the planning commission.
Okay. Robin, I don't know if you want to come up and introduce yourself.
Oh, sure.
You can come up to the
Sure, right.
chair. Yeah, yes. No, just, yeah, sit in that chair.
Yeah.
Sit in that chair and then we'll
Not my most comfortable spot, but okay,
Keep it under
Ruben
30
Vincent-
minutes.
Okay, 30 minutes, 30 seconds, maybe. That sounds better to me. Robin Vincent, I retired here to Moab 2 years ago. I'd been working overseas for 14 years and had always visited Moab for like the last 18 years every summer. I do have family here. I have seen Moab explode in positive ways and maybe some not as positive as the others, but Moab has such beautiful small town charm and a family feel and an Americana feel. And I just want to have my finger on the pulse and see if I can be of some help. Yeah, I'm an educator, by the way. So I was teaching overseas. Just that's some of my background.
all right.
I'm pleased to be here and I'll work hard. I know the learning curve is going to be steep, but I'll get on it.
Nice. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And just so you all know, I did run the applicants by staff, the planning staff, and Kaya, the chair of the planning commission.
All right, great. Okay.
Mayor, just for the public's awareness, can you share with us the other 2 applicants since they weren't in the packet?
Yeah, it was a gentleman named Randall Fox and a physician, an emergency room physician at MRH, Chris Wangdon. I'm probably not slaughtering his name, but those are the other 2.
Thank you.
All right. All right, well, I will go ahead and entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Robin Winson and Matt Heber for their appointment on the Moab City Planning Commission.
Okay, can I get a second?
Can second that.
Okay. Cool. All right, Miles. Yeah.
As the planning commission liaison, I'm very excited to see some new people on the planning commission. They do a lot of good work and I'm looking forward to new folks bringing their perspective to the commission. So I'm excited. Thank you guys very much for applying and we're very happy to have you.
Nice. Colin?
Robin, thank you. I've known Matt for many, many, many years and he's a great person and will be a great addition to the planning commission.
Yes.
Thank you for being willing to serve.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm all good. Thank you, the mayor, for that suggestion. Thank you guys for your welcome.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you too. It's such a critical board and they do so much rest on their shoulders. So thank you.
Good luck.
All right. With that, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. Anyone else? All those in favor of please say aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
May I make one, Jason, may I make a comment?
Yeah.
Just so everybody's aware, I think this is pretty interesting that we now have 4 women out of 5 on our planning commission. So Matt has his work cut out for him.
He does. He can hold his own.
Yes, I'm sure he can.
Yeah. So, all right. Okay, moving on to item 6.4, the consideration of personnel manual updates with Danny.
Hi.
Hello.
So these are just updates that are being put into the personnel manual. This kind of solidifies that. These are things that we've talked about in the past. Most have been approved during the budget process. And one of the things we want to talk about is chapter 7, which is a new benefit section. That was a direction that was given to kind of make everything easier for staff to be able to find, easier for you guys to be able to find. Nothing has changed with those. They're just pulled out of, they originally were in 3 policies. So it was pretty convoluted to kind of find where everything was. So we're hopeful that this makes it a lot easier. Do you guys have any questions on the policies?
Yeah, so no new benefits, just a new section
Yep.
where we put all the benefits that already existed in there so that they're consolidated. And yeah, this is just finalizing, just bringing it to you guys so you can see that it was done. This was something that the council requested.
Yep. Danny, it was done well. I very much appreciated being able to, very clearly go through all the benefits and have them all in one place. So thank you for your work.
I have a few. I guess from my perspective, I feel like some of these are new policies being codified for the first time.
The one that was added, which I separated out, was the up to 3% match for the 401k.
Yeah, I don't think line of duty was codified before, and the lateral hiring bonus, which I appreciate. I have a little bit of, I appreciate adding a non-law enforcement 5,000. I think that makes sense as a nice hiring bonus offer. I think that those policies should be the same across the 2, and my preference would be for the 5,000. I was curious if you could tell us a little bit more about the premium pay codes when those are applied, especially the mandatory court appearance. I feel like the others made sense, but what's
So if we have officers that are on vacation, or they are still required to come back and be at court. And so what that was doing, well, this is what we're actually doing. This is how the pay is working. This is just kind of putting that out there into a policy. Because of that, that's the best way to explain this. When you're on vacation, when you come back and you do work, what we basically do is you don't report vacation for that time, right? So because you can't report vacation and work, but that time is not paid at overtime, which is what it normally would have been, because it's an additional special duty that they have to do. So what this is doing is just showing that this is why we pay them the way that we do. So this isn't a change to how they're being paid. It's not a change to our budget. It's just putting into policy how they're actually being paid for these different duties. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and all of these are the same. None of them are changes to the budget. They have been codified through the budget, and the policy just helps us make it clear and make it unified as far as the application across the board. We want to be sure with the police department that we're doing what is fair for the employees, but also fair for the city as well, so that it makes it easier for us when it's codified. So like she said, it's already being implemented. And you had a question on the lateral?
I had more so a comment, which is that my preference would be for it to be 5,000, 50-50 across the board for all employees for lateral hire. I think I've been pretty consistent. I think that every employee of the city is an employee of the city. I don't think there are special teams or preferences. So this is in alignment with that more than anything.
But this wasn't really changing the policy. This wasn't changing the policy. It was just putting the policy in written policy in a better order. We've already approved like all that stuff that you kind of talked about during budget season, right? So this is just putting it in clear language for the manual. Is that
Yeah, this
Is
was
that-
direction that was given.
Mayor?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that this is, policy discussion can take place when, if there's other changes, Caitlin, that you'd like to make to the policy, we could do that when we do our strategic plan or when we start planning for the budget again. But this item on the agenda is basically just to approve updating the manual, not to get into the policy discussion of what actually you've already decided.
All right, well then I will cease my questions. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for Dan on this? All right, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion. So. Has one.
I can make a motion to approve the personnel manual updates.
Okay, Colin makes a motion. You get a second. 20 seconds. Colin,
No comment.
Tani,
No, just thank you.
anyone else?
I guess from my perspective, these are existing practices and they are codified in the budget. I provided comments on those items in the budget as well. So, so being consistent with that. But from my perspective, even if it's a practice, it's not policy until it comes before our desk, and it's council's opportunity to weigh in on that. So I understand what you're saying. I have a slightly different interpretation of that, and had some pushback and questions on a few items, but I hear the message. So that is my comment. Thank you.
Miles, you good?
No comment from me.
Okay. All right, so I'll go ahead and take a vote on the motion to approve the personnel manual updates. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so passes 4-1.
Thank you.
Jason, when you have a nay vote, you need to do a roll call vote.
Okay, I will do a roll call vote. Miles,
Aye.
Caitlin,
Nay.
Colin.
Aye.
Tony.
Aye.
Jason, aye. So it's 4-1. Roll call vote. Okay. Moving on to 6.5, which is a consideration of a change order contract for McKinstry Ascension in the amount of $1,206,621 for phased retrofits for mechanical building, automation controls, and lighting at the Moab Recreation Aquatic Center.
So I think is Patrick on? Will you pick the one that looks best?
Yeah.
He's gonna give a quick presentation before McKinstry goes into theirs, but I just want to explain why this is a change order instead of a new contract. This is a project that was contemplated and approved through the budget for majority of the money is going towards the AMRAC for fixes there, and they'll probably talk about what those are exactly. We already have a contract. What's that?
That's what I was trying to do.
Okay. We already have a contract for McKinstry, as you know. We've done a lot of work with them, and they've contemplated the work that we're looking at here today from the beginning. They told us these are things that we should be looking at. We did not go out to bid for this because McKinstry is qualified through the state bidding process, which means they are exempted on the local level of having to go through that process because they've already justified that they're going to give the best possible price through a state process. So, and because of that, we decided that, not just because of that, because of several different things, we decided that the best thing to do in this situation would do a change order to the existing contract as opposed to having several different contracts for the same group who's doing work throughout the city continuously. So that's why it's a change order as opposed to a new contract. But the amount, the 1.2 whatever million, is new and was approved by the budget, in the budget in CIP. Okay. Did we find Patrick?
It says he's there.
Oh. We can make Ryan do his presentation.
Hey, well, sorry about that. I was having some network issues here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you guys for accommodating me here remotely. I'm out in Chicagoland with the family. But yeah, we're excited. I'm glad McKinstry was able to join, especially at the MRAC. Came from a couple of different phases, and they can talk a little more about this. But the phase 1 energy audit identified some deficiencies. We had some regular maintenance things, lighting at City Center, and just more recently in the last year, we did the MRAC facility assessment, which identified some repairs to exhaust fans, pumps, piping, insulation, among other things. And so, we see these really as necessary maintenance and operations upgrades, and we're excited to potentially get this work moving soon. And this was a change order, I think, Michael, as you mentioned, to the existing contract, the state contract that we are currently working under with McKinstry.
So we have McKinstry here. They can run us through a presentation and talk about what they'll be doing and what we're getting for the money.
Absolutely. So we're here. The first thing we're going to tell you about is who we are. Our team has changed a little bit since you first saw us. I'm new, or I replaced Jason Grooms, who's been here talking to you guys before about what we were doing as projects. So Michael will be telling you about, he's our development manager. He'll be telling you about this project and the different facility improvement measures that we're looking at to do here. And then we'll be talking about kind of what the schedule of this project looks like, what the budget looks like, and then opening it up for any questions that you might have. So this is an overview of our team. Alex Grevis is our construction manager. He's actually here, but he's not feeling well, so he's not here. And Shane is our superintendent over the projects that we do here. So he's here through the whole project when we're doing project to make sure things are going how they're supposed to go. And then we have a really excellent team backing all of us up. So first of all, Michael already explained that we are part of the state Utah cooperative purchase contract, which means that you don't have to go out to bid to use this, which is, kind of like an easy button. And just, kind of to report back on some of the work we've done in phase 1 of this contract, we delivered 21% cost reductions, 24% carbon reductions, with an 18-year payback term. So pretty solid ESCO project. Additional scopes of work that we'll be delivering through the project. There's been a phase 2 that I think is just wrapping up, right, Shane?
Project wrapped up already.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and all of our subcontractors we competitively bid them through the state process, so that we continue that, making sure everything's done right. And all of the FIMs that Michael is going to talk to you about have been selected by working with your team here in the city, and prioritizing what's most important to them. And then with that, I will turn it over to Michael.
Yeah. So we are looking at, I think, 13 specific measures. I'll go through those. The first one was what we had put into the budget for your consideration, but we've been asked to substitute it. The original request was to upgrade the shower heads in the shower stalls at the MRAC, to put a single point thermostatic mixing valve with a timer. Staff here has already taken care of that in a different way that works better for the public. So they're asking us to instead look at providing some exhaust fans to those bathrooms. They get kind of musty in there, and so they were repainting them today, in fact, to take care of some spots. But to control humidity in the bathroom showers, to add an exhaust fan to reduce that incidence, and then to update some piping that has been fixed with shark bite PEX fittings. The original copper had developed some pinhole leaks. They've been fixed with PEX, but they'd like to go back to a new copper line. Those shark bite fittings are known to be a point of failure that can, in time, rupture and then lead to flooding damage. So they'd like to go back to a commercial grade copper domestic hot water piping. We have a different exhaust fan that is at the end of its life at the MRAC that would be requested for replacement. We have a booster pump on the hot water at the MRAC. So this is coming off the boilers, serving the pools and the heat exchangers to those pools. We have the hydronic piping is the hot water piping, and then the other piping is the domestic line. So providing new insulation and repairs on some of the piping throughout the boiler plants of the MRAC. And then flushing and filling the boiler systems with a new batch of glycol, which is a freeze protectant, antifreeze basically. That's been leaking and it's been degraded into, it's not providing the same level of freeze protection because the percentage of glycol has dropped over time. So flushing the whole system, refilling it with the proper composition of glycol, and providing new insulation on some of the pipes throughout the city center building here. Also doing, so the ground loop that serves this building has been without glycol for a while. Part of McKinstry's phase 1 project was to replace the fluid cooler, which is part of the geothermal system here. Currently, without glycol in that system at all, you can't operate that fluid cooler during the winter. There'd be a risk of it freezing and rupturing again. Replenishing the glycol here at this city center building will allow that to operate during the winter and protect it from freezing down to a 25% propylene glycol solution will protect it down to about 5 degrees, and burst protection even lower than that. And then some of the very exciting ones I know for the city staff here are controls retrofits at this building and at the MRAC. Over at the MRAC, the existing control system is a Siemens EcoStructure. That is a proprietary software and hardware network that is only serviced by Utah Yamas Controls, which is based in Salt Lake City. So anytime you want to adjust building automation controls at the MRAC, you have to call and hope someone in Salt Lake picks up. What we are proposing to replace it with, both at the MRAC and here, is an open protocol system. We're basing around a Distech is the brand, but it's not a proprietary software or hardware system. So any controls contractor can work on that. You're not locked into the services of a specific controls vendor. That controls upgrade also provides a great deal more building insight and controllability. So Chase and Patrick and Ryan here will have much greater ability to keep temperatures at the right location, manage setbacks, more reliability. It'll give them text message or email updates if there's a warning or an alarm that comes up. It can even be utilized to allow remote access so that if it's midnight and something comes up, Chase can hop on his laptop at home and see what the issue is. If it's just something that needs to be reset, he can do it. But much greater functionality and insight and control for the facilities maintenance staff here. And then L1 through 3 are all related to lighting. So here at over at the MRAC, we would be replacing fluorescent and metal halide and high intensity discharge lights with LEDs. So they'll be energy efficient, they'll be brighter, they'll be more directed, they'll be in compliance with the dark skies requirements here in Moab. So new lighting on the facade and on the pool deck, and then a new lighting controls panel. There are several relays in there that have failed, and so they're necessary maintenance item when we get the new lights to do a new lighting control panel. And then here at the city center, we would be replacing fluorescents with LEDs for energy efficiency and for longevity of the lights. Fluorescents have lifespans of between 25 and 50,000 hours. LEDs are usually 50 to 100,000 hours of life, so more reliable, longer lasting. And then for all of these scopes of work, especially ones that touch either the air side or the water side of your HVAC systems, we would be providing testing, adjusting, and balancing to make sure that all of the registers and grills and diffusers are receiving the proper airflows after we're done messing with them. And then commissioning to make sure all systems are functional. That commissioning process includes video training for all the facility staff who, and we provide all the operation and maintenance manuals to them. We provide 4 hours of training at the time of handover, and we do a recording of that training session. And then in 3 months or 6 months, we come back for another 4 hours of training and make sure things are still operating well. If they've come in, run across any concerns or things they don't need to be retrained on or have run into a second set of training at about 3 or 6 months. In terms of the schedule, which is kind of small up on the screen there, but we'd be looking at
Starting construction the first week of October and wrapping it up around mid-December. Getting through the shoulder season is when you guys need cooling. Once the shoulder season is over is when we do the flush and fill on the ground.
And that's pretty important. So while we're doing the flush and fill here on the ground loop at these two buildings, you aren't going to be exchanging heat with the ground. And so the loop will still function. You'll still have units able to provide heating and cooling, but we want to do it at a point where there's not great demand either way. Kind of the shoulder season, the fall is kind of more of a balance point between heating and cooling. So it's less impactful to operator and public comfort here to do it during a relatively mild time of the year, because we'll have to be doing work to drain and then refill that heating and cooling loop.
And then as you know, the total cost for this Placidus project is $1,206,600. Oh my gosh, $1,206,621 million. Yeah, I need to go back to elementary school. So that total project cost includes $37,400 of owner control contingency. That's for any unforeseen things that come up. If we don't use it, then we will either talk to Patrick and his team and see if they have something else they want us to do for that same budget, or return it to you. That's how the contingency works. We do have approximately $80,000 of unspent contingency and incurred retrofit scope from our phase 1 and phase 2, and it's being applied to help fund this project. And then that's my presentation. So any questions you have for us?
So what you just said, sorry, can I just ask a question? So what you just said was because of the savings on phase 2, the charges to the city for the full cost will be reduced by $80,000 for phase 3.
That's reflected in the 1,206.
Oh, it is already.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the contract amount is 1,286, but that reflects 80,000 of city money that's being applied to this project that's been held over from previous phases, that was contingency that was not needed or held over for this phase.
So and the total project is about 2 months to finish this?
Yeah.
It's coming in. Okay. I had a question on the warranty, which was 31,000. What is the warranty? Is that, and how long is the warranty?
She knows off the top of my head.
12 months.
It's 12 months. And it goes, well, is it 12 months or is it 12 months after?
It's 12 months after turnover.
Yeah, so we
Okay.
have the first 12 months, which is covered by material and workmanship, and then the second 12 months is that.
Okay.
And equipment warranties are usually provided by manufacturers on their equipment, and those could be 5 or 10 years. We provide the 1 year workmanship warranty. So you're covered on the equipment up to 5 or 10 years, whatever the manufacturer is offering. But then for the first year, something is making a funny noise, you call us and we'll be right down here to make sure that we've installed it correctly, or if anything is covered under warranty for the first year.
When you were talking about the automation and how we have to currently call Salt Lake, to get things changed or whatnot, is that a contract that we have? And or is that like a month to month or a yearly contract or what? So
Contract we would like to not have any.
correct.
So
Yeah, that's what I'm
yeah.
wondering. It's like,
Yeah.
but I'm like wondering if it's like a year contract that, we're having to prorate, or something, if we do this or whatnot, and how much that contract is or what we're spending on that and stuff is. Okay.
It's probably time and materials, honestly.
Oh, okay.
And because it's been with them since the building was constructed. I'll do some more looking into that, but I'm assuming if you don't have a contract that we're on time and materials and we call them up and they just charge us for what they do for us.
Yeah, and this is Patrick. Sorry to wait. As far as that contract, it was a longer term contract that the term is up. We're essentially going month to month now, and so this would be a prime opportunity to move in a different direction.
Okay.
I've got a couple.
Yeah.
So typically change orders come with a markup. So is this seeing a markup based off our original contract as far as labor rates and stuff go? Like your cost breakdown here is pretty broad.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of these line items feel a tad inflated to me.
Our markups are actually part of the cooperative purchase agreement from the state of Utah. So the way that cooperative purchase agreement went out to all of the energy service companies is a technical portion, qualifications team, and then essentially a cost fee schedule.
Mhm.
And so we are abiding by that in the cooperative purchase contract.
Okay.
So that has been applied the same way for all phases of our work that we've done with the city so far.
So it would be it would have been the same fee based on the contract for a new contract as opposed to.
A change order.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just for clarification from the city side, if we felt like we'd rather this go out to bid, is that still possible at this point?
Well, yeah, it's certain. I mean, we could bid it differently, but this has been out to bid. It's been bid through the state process.
Yeah.
So through a cooperative process that we participate in, it has gone through a bidding process. But yeah, I mean, you don't have to approve any contract, and we can look at different ways of doing things at any time.
I mean, like between the commissioning line item, which you described as significant training, and the training line item in here, we've got $55,000 and $19,000 for what's effectively training for our staff to maintain these systems. Like there's
Training is just a small part of what they're doing. So they're going
Yep.
through and like double checking all of the equipment. So commissioning is actually a pretty big
sure.
item.
Several of these line items are like all mechanical and plumbing being lumped into one. I personally would feel more comfortable approving something like this if I saw a little bit more breakdown of how these costs were coming across to us.
And the line items that Miles is talking about, are those covered in the procurement for the state?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're competitive. Okay. And that's, this is totally up to the council, how you want to approve this or not approve it or ask for more information. It's your choice.
I want to speak to that a little bit. When we initially went out to do this for the phase 1 version, I did talk to a couple other cities and other people who had worked with McKinstry about this, because that was one of my concerns too, that working with energy companies can inflate the price some. And the reason why we decided to go with them was because they were reliably delivering projects quickly on time. doing things that were difficult for our staff to get done. So even though we knew that if we decided to do these one project at a time, we would eventually get there, it could take us months or years sometimes to do the amount of projects they can do in a couple months. So just to acknowledge that was kind of a trade-off that I considered when we were doing phase one, and at the time it was worth it to us to get those things done.
So the last time that this went out to competitive bid through the state process was for phase one. Because this is a change order and not a new contract.
No, so part of what we do when we're putting together these costs and stuff is any subs that we're gonna use in these projects. We do an internal RFP and they respond, and then we do what we call a bid scrub. And so we're making sure we're comparing, you know, apples to apples and not like this guy's bid, why is it so much lower? And, you know, and then looking at it. So we go through all of that in the background while we're coming up with our cost. And
Right.
just to make sure that you are getting the best, you know, deal that we can get you based on the subcontractors that we're having.
The cooperative purchase contract with the state is from 2023. The RFP and the bid process we conducted for these projects for the city of Moab is from earlier this year. So that was to mechanical, electrical, controls, and plumbing subcontractors. And so that competitive process was recent and open to the public.
The reason there was the $80,000 left over phase one and phase two is when we were doing construction, we call it a wish list, and we put like all the items that come up during construction. And there was a lot of just, hey, this is gonna be so many projects. And then we had the building assessment, which had some more onto it. And that was like, we spend this 80,000 and do onesies and twosies here, there, and not get it all done. Or we might be doing a third phase and pulling everything at once. So it wasn't so many onesies and twosies. It was just gonna be one trip down.
Right. I guess the challenge with that though is that this should have been a $2.8 million contract from the jump, not $1 million contract, and then a 650 for the roofing, and now this is another 1.2 million. It's a significant. This to me, it doesn't feel like a change order. It feels like a new contract.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And this was not, these things that we're talking about, not all of them, most of them that we're talking about came out of the MRAC study that was done by McKinstry just in the last year. So they weren't part of the original scope or even contemplated with the original scope. I can't disagree with you as far as the new contract goes. What we're trying to do here through our legal is to do this as quickly and easily as possible. We do feel like we're getting the best price on this, that we feel like we're getting a good price on this based on competitive processes. We do know that these guys are doing a good job for us. They do have a proven record here. If it is something that you'd like to do through a new contract, that is something we can do. Nathan's on the line. He did work with us on this, and that's how we got to this point where we are now, where we're looking at a change order. So if you want to hear from him, I'm sure he'd be happy to weigh in as well. He's got his hand up.
So initially we did try to do this as a new contract, and what we found is that we kept bumping into I think part of the problem is this was a contract that was done, if I recall, on kind of a template, and since then the city has been trying to use a standard procurement contract, and so with that we kept bumping into comments back from McKinstry saying, well, this is different from what we had agreed to before. And you know, we can do this as an amendment to our existing contract or as a change order, and so rather than spend the time going back and forth over coming up with a completely new contract, it did seem simpler and easier and honestly legally defensible to just do this as a change order under the existing contract. So that's the direction we ultimately took. So we did try to do a new contract, but I think if we're going to continue to take that approach, you know, it's going to take a fair bit of negotiation because what we initially agreed to and what we have in our standard contracts now are a bit different.
And what we have in our contracts tends to be what we get from the state that we're supposed to put in our contracts. So a lot of it is hard for us to negotiate some of those items because we have to do what the state tells us we have to do.
Okay. When we originally budgeted this, did we budget this with all these items? Is what
Well, originally, you mean when the phase one
Yeah,
happened?
when we approved the 1.2, budget,
The 1.2 was approved in this budget. It was new for this year.
but it included
Yes.
everything that's
Yeah.
listed in here. Okay. All right, anything else?
I do. So I'm curious, so much of this scope of work came out of the work that was happening in phase one. Where should we go with this? Where does this leave us with the MRAC? I mean, we've been dealing with this, bringing it back up to speed. And I think you're probably the best people to speak to this because you have been immersed in that building and all of its systems for the last year. Should we decide to go with this, where does that leave us with the MRAC?
So I know that when we started working with the city, one of the biggest concerns was, is the building structurally safe? Is there settling? Is our walls coming apart? Part of our building assessment was to involve a structural engineer, in fact, the same one that was the engineer of record for that design. We received data from them that indicates the building is structurally sound, that there's no danger to the public, that it is the cracking is seen as normal and not indicative of a serious problem underlying the building. So that gave us a lot of confidence to go in and make some of the necessary and desired upgrades to the building. The building was built in 2010. A lot of mechanical systems have lifespans of between 15 and 20 years. Sometimes your boilers will get to 25 or 30 years. But it is starting to come into the first season of major equipment replacement. And that's kind of what we're seeing with some of these. Piping is losing its insulation. The seals, the gaskets are coming, they're becoming stiffer. They're starting to develop leaks as the material ages. I think where this will leave you is with a highly effective, well-performing building, but it's not going to address every element of age on the building. We are aware that some of the fiber cement cladding on the outside has cracks through it, and that's a difficult component to find to replace. So there's going to be a long wish list of things to completely renew the building, but these are a really, really important baseline to maintain mechanical operation, keep pools and the public healthy and safe, and ease the maintenance load of your facility staff. And that's something that we've really enjoyed working with your staff. And most of these things are coming at their request and their things that they've noticed, and they're making their lives harder day to day, is fighting with leaky pumps, and especially some of the glycol and the freeze protection is either limiting your ability to use certain components during the year, or could present a risk of just keep those things from freezing. You don't want them to burst during cold temperatures.
Yeah, VAVs that have clogged coils over there that aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's why we did the flush and fill to get that all cleaned out. So it's going to be more comfortable for the public. The exhaust that we're looking at doing for the locker rooms, the family locker rooms, there really is no exhaust right now. That's why it's the way it is, and always wet and moldy. And they should take care of that issue. I think it's going to give a good facelift for another 20 years.
So, you mind? Yeah. So we feel like everything that we've proposed is stuff that needs to be done. These are all things that need to be done. The state of Utah does negotiate to get the best prices so the cities don't have to do it, so that we can it's a service that's provided by the state. We can all use it. We all participate, and presumably we're getting the best price that we can on these things as a result of that. So with that in mind, I don't know that going out to bid necessarily will result in a better number. I feel confident that the state does a good job with these things. As far as the history of this goes, last year or the year before, actually, when I first started as city manager, which is just towards the end of the year, and we were starting the budget, we put a lot of money looking forward for the MRAC because we had fears that the building was falling down. Remember these conversations? Can somebody just tell us what's wrong with it? And so we hired McKinstry to come in and do that work. They came in and found that it was not falling down per se, but there was a lot of issues with this building, as they've explained. We do believe that these things do need to get addressed and fixed. We feel comfortable working with McKinstry. We feel comfortable with the legal opinion that this is a defensible way to do the contract. And I think as far as the price goes, all I can say is I feel comfortable with the state's procurement process, and recommend that we do go forward with this contract.
I guess my specific question is, did the state vet this change order, or did the state vet our initial contract?
What the state does is these guys bid and they say, this is how much we will charge to do these tasks, these things. And the change order is consistent with what they provided to the state. So the state doesn't vet the contract itself. What happens is they agree to provide a service for the contract price, or the price per item that they have put into the state contract.
The state limit essentially sets our markups, and we are within those markups that we apply them to come up with the price for you. We follow that markup schedule, that markup. There's actually a table in that cooperative contract that is what we've agreed to in negotiations with the state, and that's what we apply to our phase one and to our subsequent phases with the city.
So in other words, another way to put it is that we, through our procurement process, have vetted this to ensure that it's consistent with the state procurement process, that they're giving us the prices that they've given to the state.
Yeah, I guess where I'm at, I agree the work needs to be done. I think you guys have done a great job. This is not a knock on you in any way. And it is likely that you're gonna be the best to continue this job. My significant heartburn is over the fact that this is a $1.2 million change order to a contract approved almost 2 years ago. This is like a phase 3, and I just pulled up the other contract again. And so that's it's kind of the non-compete. I don't know. Like I'm struggling with the transparency of moving this as a change order, because it's like kind of, you guys did do the assessment. You would be the contractor that it makes the most sense for. I think some of this work could be done by, other professional. It's a spec'd out job. You guys have all the specs for what you need to order. And so I'm kind of struggling with what to do personally, just because I don't understand. And so I feel like I'm not getting a super clear, maybe I'm not hearing the response right, but in understanding, I understand you guys were vetted by the state. We entered the contract for phase 1. But I'm still trying to process through the state. You were picked by the state, you were vetted by the state, we picked you to work with you for phase 1. But would we, knowing that this ultimately was almost a $3 million project, not a $1 million project, would that have gone the same way if this had all been under one contract, is kind of the question that I'm trying to understand.
And I think we're not doing ourselves any favors in the perception of this whole thing by doing it as a change order. The reality is that at the end of the day, it's the same thing. If we did a new contract, we would likely go with state contract with these guys and propose that as a new contract, and we can do that. The other thing that we could do with a new contract, if it is something the council wants to do, is see if anybody else wants to bid on it. But what we would be doing is seeing if anybody would match the state contract price, which has already gone through that process. So it's kind of redundant to the process that's already happened. I get the point about the change order, but this project we're talking about right now was not part of the original discussion when we first hired McKinstry. They did a feasibility analysis on the MRAC last year, which came up with a lot of these things. Some of these things are additional things that are from phase 1 and phase 2, but a big portion of these are MRAC, and they came out of the feasibility that came out last year.
I'll say where my heartburn is very similar to Caitlin's in the sense that like, we've got you guys, you've done good work for us, and all of this work makes perfect sense in its necessity to be done. But also like, you guys are the guys that found the work to be done. Now we're handing you a contract without putting it out to bid. And the city has been in the position of essentially paying more for services than they may have had to because of a lack of bids coming in, or otherwise being in kind of a position of like, well, we'll just go with these guys. And I guess that's where my heartburn is like, this is a lot of money to spend. And without giving others the chance to put a bid in and essentially, you know, do what we can to reduce the cost of this as much as possible. It gives me some heartburn.
Yeah, and I feel like because of that, I need to say that staff did go through a procurement process with these guys. The state is a competitive bid process. I get where you're coming from, but I don't think it's accurate to say that we gave somebody a contract without a competitive process, because there was, and it is in state code that this is part of the procurement process. This is an accepted procurement process, and it is competitive.
All right, I'll go ahead and
I think Joette has her hands.
yeah.
Yeah, Michael, why did we decide to go through the state instead of just doing it on our own?
Because we do this a lot. We do this with playground equipment. We do this with cars. We do this with all kinds of things. We do it because it's convenient. The state goes through this, and a lot of cities will do this because they don't have to go through the process and time to do an RFP and a bid and things like that, because the state's already done that for us. It's just convenient, and it is effective in the terms of timing and things like that. Nathan has his hand up too.
Yeah, and to add to that, it's also authorized under our code under section 228.110. And I'll quote, city departments are encouraged to utilize state of Utah competitive group procurements where appropriate. So not only is it authorized in our code, that the city staff are encouraged to consider them when doing these types of procurements for that reason. Now that provision of city code, I think, predates everybody in this room. It certainly predates me, Mayor. I think it predates you and this council, but nevertheless, that's what our procurement code says too. So it is something that's in our code. It's authorized for us to use state approved contracts, and more importantly, the departments are encouraged by that section of code to consider them.
Thank you.
Not to say that the council can't, of course, do a competitive procurement if it wants, but just to explain how we got here, that's what our code says.
Great, thanks.
Okay, I'll go ahead and see if anyone wants to make a motion.
I feel like I'm not ready.
I'll go ahead and make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the change order of the contract with Kansas City dated January 16, 2025, facility improvement measures in the amount of $1,206,621 and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Okay. I would just like to say that I understand like the whole procurement thing, and I think it makes sense in this instance where the state has kind of gone out and done the work. Alexi's, done the work on this. She's done the homework to kind of vet this, make sure that we're, getting what we need to get done. I think that, we do run into this, and what happens if we do put this thing out to bid and it comes back that, like McKinstry could bid on it again and say, hey, we're going to bid it for higher, or everybody else can come in and bid it for higher. And so this is, I think, the state saying, hey, we've set these prices, and if and if these guys can come in, then it's a benefit for the city to a potential benefit for the city to take that and be able to save them time and money and get these projects, pushed down the line, by not having to do it. And I think that Alexia kind of explained that she's kind of done the homework on this. And I think that we need to, I think as we've looked at roads, and things like that have come in, super sky high, than what we thought they were. This is an opportunity for us to get this thing done. The only thing that I think is missing, and it's not underneath this, is because it's just, energy is, the outside of the mark needs to be fixed, stuff. And hopefully that will come sooner or later, but that's kind of my 2 cents on this. Connie, do you have?
And this isn't the first time we've done something like this. This isn't, not being transparent. And I think, when you've worked with somebody and they've done a good job, you have to trust them, you have to trust our staff. And, I think all of these things need to be done and have for a long time. So I don't know that pushing it off to another, putting it out to bid or an RFP is going to buy us much of anything.
Anyone else?
I think we're kind of trading convenience for expense here. I don't think there's a legal, reason not to do this in this way. As Nathan has pointed out, this all makes sense in that realm. But I think, I think it's my position that we should be doing our best to find ways to make these projects more affordable. And I think putting them out to bid and giving somebody the opportunity to come in underneath what the state decides is a standard is beneficial, even if it simply results in us paying the same price because nobody does. And that's my position.
I can go. Or you want final word?
I guess I'd just like to say that again, I understand these, especially Miles's points about breaking it up and going out. I think that staff has worked hard on this. I think that there's an established relationship. I think that we're also talking about systems in a greater building system. And while it does give me heartburn to be adding a $1.2 million change order, I'm very appreciative that the MRAC is at least for the time being, this has been something that has been sort of the elephant in the room at these meetings for a long time. And I appreciate that we are potentially looking at it, in the short term, having it, back up to snuff and operational, and so that all those wonderful staff that are operating that building and that facility can be spending their time doing other things and repainting the bathrooms because they're molding. So with some heartburn, I will be voting for this.
I guess from my perspective, this feels to me like it should be a new contract and not a change order. I think that this is the business of government, is that it's slow and it's transparent. It's not fast and work with the same person every time, necessarily. And so for that reason, I can't get over my heartburn on this. Just from a financial transparency standpoint, and that this to me feels like it should be a new contract. And so for that reason, I won't be voting for this change order, but really appreciate all the work that you're doing. I guess I would also flag with that, then you also noted, and I don't know if this needs to be part of the amendment or if it's so small, but you mentioned at the beginning that the shower replacement, which is in the change order, is now going to be a power exhaust fan and hot water recirculation pump. So that would probably need to be a minor amendment to the contract as well before it gets signed. So I don't know if, well, yeah, I don't. Oh, just noted. Yeah, you guys, just noting that the shower replacement in the scope of work should be changed to the power exhaust fans.
Right. It was on your presentation, but we'd like to see that in the contract before, if this passes, before it gets signed.
Yeah, and that was a very new change request, I think yesterday or the day before. So
We've had it for about a week and a half requested in from Patrick. I don't quite know whether it's a -1 + 1 = 0 net change. So what I think we would want to do is remove the known cost of the shower replacement, maybe add that to contingency, and then allow that contingency to apply directly when we know the actual cost of the power exhaust fan and the recirculation pump and lining that we would be looking to substitute it with. Probably the form that would take in the actual change order language, to credit that back into contingency fund, and then with the known not even a guaranteed stipulation, but credited into the project contingency, knowing that it's likely to be applied to the other measures that are being substituted for it.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. We would have a savings because we won't be charged for one line item, but this new line item would go into the contingency. And if they were equal, they would cancel themselves out. But if the contingency was more, it would be just a bit more to the contract. But good point. I think that it does need to happen. And these showers are a big deal for us because we actually make revenue off of our showers, and a lot of people use these. So we want to keep them in better working order because they haven't been that great. But we've got Ryan working out there, and Patrick's doing a really good job in bringing the MRAC ship shape. So
cool. Okay. Does anybody else have anything else? I will go ahead and do a roll call vote. I'll start with Miles.
Nay.
Caitlin.
Nay.
Colin.
Aye.
Connie.
Aye.
Jason is aye as well. So this passes 3-2, and thank you guys all. It's good, great discussion. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item 6.6. This is a consideration of ordinance 2026-15, ordinance enacting a chapter, changing this municipal water code include water conservation, but this is actually, there's some changes on this that we're gonna talk about tonight on this part.
Yeah.
but good changes.
Good changes.
Get to the point.
Okay, we began talking about water conservation this year in somewhere around March. And then it came to city council by April because we had gone through a pretty dry and really warm spring. And as part of those presentations and moving through this, we've talked about it again later in April on the 28th. We've talked about it in June as well. Our drought is persisting. This is the drought monitor. We've moved from extreme to severe since April, but we're still in a drought. In addition to that, over the past few decades, and especially in the past 10 years, we have over half the time, much more than half the time, had some part of our county abnormally dry or in some form of drought. So this has been going on for a while. It's just been extra dry here in recent years. And one of the things that council had requested from us is to continue doing outreach, which we have been doing. Lisa has been putting things out on social media, news media, handouts, conversations that Sasha had with people and like running hotels. And then we also got a request from you to bring options for water restrictions. So we have a couple of those options this evening. One is through an ordinance to add additional conservation that would exist year round, just on a permanent basis. And another option is declaring a water shortage according to the water shortage response plan at the warning stage, which is the first stage that has restrictions. So this item is the ordinance option. So I'll talk about what that is a little bit. I think I'm gonna do a quick stop on some outreach and our current water use, and then we'll talk about what is in the proposed ordinance. And then I'll pause there and let you consider this agenda item and then move on to the declaring a water shortage option. So this is a little small, but I did ask, and Marcy and Val put together a summary of our water use since December. I asked them to get the most recent month we could, which was June, and you can see that in our parks and cemetery, in commercial, and in also residential, the 26 water has dipped. So people do seem to be getting the message that we have a drought and they are saving water. Now I'm going to move on to what is in the ordinance. Essentially, it restricts watering during the daytime, specifically water that is part of the Moab culinary water system. This would not apply to water managed by irrigation companies, only the city as a water provider. And it would apply to water that's delivered above ground, such as pop-up spray heads, rotor sprinklers, oscillating or impact sprinklers. It would not apply to below ground or drip or other types of irrigation or other types of water use that would be during the day. And then what it would do is it would take above ground watering and make it only from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., meaning in the cooler times of day when you can reduce evaporation by watering those times, that's when it would be allowed. And when evaporation is the highest and the temperatures are high, it would restrict watering. People would not be able to use these forms of irrigation at that time. So the way we originally proposed this was in Chapter 8 or Title 8, Chapter 8.28, Health and Safety. After talking more with Nathan, we decided that Title 13 is where our legal authority is as a water provider, so it makes more sense under public services and health and safety. And I will let him talk a little bit more about this decision.
Thanks, Alexis. So the long and short of it is that you already have under Title 13 of your code, general use restrictions regarding water. And your authority to enact these restrictions, it's specific to the water system that the city owns and the water rights that the city owns. So the city doesn't have authority to regulate other secondary water providers in town or people that have private water rights. It's limited to your water rights and your water system. And that is what Title 13 is already set up to do. And so it just seemed to me a little inconsistent to put this section or these new requirements regarding outdoor watering in a totally unrelated section of the code when you already have section or Title 13 that governs it, that has an enforcement section, that has all the legal let's just say foundation for this to work. And so that's my recommendation, is that we just take the water restriction language about the 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. and then the related exception language, and then we just put that into section 1320.030, which is already reserved under your general water use regulation section in chapter 1320. And what that would require is removing what would then become some of the redundant provisions of this ordinance. Since having our call today, I've made some track changes to the ordinance that I could share, or I've sent them to Summer, Michael, and Alexi that would show you what this would look like. But the substance and the heart of the ordinance would stay the same. It would just, instead of being in Title 8, it would be in Chapter 13. And the enforcement section wouldn't need to be there because you already have a water enforcement section under 1320.220. And the purpose and scope section also aren't needed because you already have those as well in Title 13. So that's essentially my requested change or recommended change.
Okay.
Okay, if you want to see that would look like, we can open that up, or I also have 2 possible actions that you can take if you want. So the substance does not change, it would just move titles.
And our understanding is that we can do that with this meeting the way that it is noticed.
Having not looked at chapter 13 and seeing some of the repetitive language that Nathan is, I think I would prefer to table and just do a cleanup next meeting. I have other thoughts as well, but we can keep going. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, so the 2 options, obviously you can choose to take no action. You could approve it as is, and it actually would implement what it says it would. But the recommended actions would be either to approve it with modifications or table it. If you approve it with modifications, then we would suggest amending the current motion to move this to Title 13 instead of where it currently is an 8. And then taking out specifically the purpose, the scope and applicability, violation enforcement, and the relief remedies and severability. Those are redundant to things that are already in Title 13, and they would be covered by stuff that's already written. So if you removed that, it would keep the substance saying that watering during this time with these exceptions and exemptions would take place. And then it would default to the other sections that are already in that chapter.
So, so I guess there's two, tell me if I'm wrong on this and stuff, but there's kind of two ways that we could take. If we wanted to have like a clean, you know, clean ordinance or whatever, you know, like Caitlin was talking about, you know, where it's put into 13. We could table it and draft it, you know, so that's in 13. And then the way that this is set up is that that if we were to approve this ordinance, we wouldn't need to do anything with 6.7 because we would have already enacted an ordinance. So if we tabled it, then could we then go to 6.7 and do a resolution directing the city manager to declare a water shortage, and in that water shortage would be the ordinance that you can only water from 8 to 8, you know, as a band-aid, you know, to get through the current water shortage. Because like if we don't approve it till August 11th, then and then it doesn't go into effect until September 1st, you know, or something like that. The season's over, the summer's, you know, basically over. We're you know, we're it's a moot point at that point, you know, and stuff. So if we're really concerned about you know, water and water shortages, you know, I think, you know, one or the other kind of has to take place tonight, you know, and stuff on this. And so I don't know, I think if we could figure out the language, you know, and just, you know, and be able to just approve this ordinance and then pass it under chapter 13 or whatever, or section 13, you know, what do you guys think?
Yeah, and I have a comment too.
Yeah, Michael.
Oh, I get to go first.
Yeah.
I think they're probably gonna say the same thing. The issue with using the water shortage as a Band-Aid is it's not a Band-Aid, it's a tourniquet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not, but I just was trying to think of something worse than something more, you know, it's the wrong tool. Because what we're trying to do with the ordinance is just limit the hours people can water. If we do the water shortage, it will limit a lot of other things as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mayor.
Yeah, thanks. I think, you know, as we were talking about this today, it would be great to give the public an opportunity to kind of get in the habit. And I think that's what all the outreach we've been telling people is, hey, be prepared, this is coming. And so if we pass this ordinance as being recommended by Nathan, I mean, well, he's not really recommended it, it's an option that you guys can take. That gives the public an opportunity through the rest of the summer and through September to kind of get used to it without us actually, I don't want to say enforcing, but you know, giving people warnings. It's like, okay, you know, you're watering your lawn at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, you should probably, you know, we're going to change that. It's going to, you know, you're going to have to be, you could get fined if you do that. So we could take this opportunity from August through September to continue that educational piece with the ordinance in place. And if we wait, it's kind of, you know, then it's just going to start next year and it's going to be on the books, and, you know, people are going to be surprised because they're not going to remember that we passed this ordinance this year. And that's just my thoughts on it. And also we can always amend it. I mean, if there's something that we find in the next few months that isn't working or that is problematic, we can always amend the ordinance later on rather than holding off on it now. But that's just my thoughts on it. Of course, you guys make that decision.
And I would just like to add, I've already prepared the edits. And so I could show those to the council on the screen and then they could see what they look like and if they think that they're too substantive and they want more time. But I think it might be helpful for them to see what the proposed edits I've made are. And just, so I reviewed this ordinance last Thursday. I got it, I think last Wednesday, I provided my comments, to get it into the packet, but I had my fundamental question to staff, which we weren't able to connect until today, is where is the right place to put this? And so nothing that you have is anything I would suggest changing other than the stuff that's redundant. So it's the council's call, certainly. Either of these approaches works legally, but if you're trying to decide between these two options, it might be helpful for me or Alexi to just go through the proposed changes that we would make to the ordinance if you were to adopt it tonight.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Do you want me to share my screen, Michael or Alexi? What would be the easiest way to do
If
this?
you have it up, that would be great.
Yeah, okay. Give me 1 second here. Okay, can everybody see this?
Yes.
Okay, so the first change initially as this was drafted, because this was going into chapter 828, it was broader. It was just outdoor conservation, right? Because it was, but since this is really about daytime irrigation restrictions, I suggest changing the title of the ordinance, obviously to reference the section of Title 13 where we'd be putting it. So this would be the first change that I would recommend. So this would read an ordinance repealing and replacing section 1320.030 of the Moab Municipal Code to include daytime irrigation restrictions. So that's the first change, to basically saying where it's going to go. Everything else here would stay the same. What I would change again at the bottom is this recital. The ordinance will update the Moab Municipal Code by repealing and replacing section 1320.030 to include daytime irrigation restrictions. So actually I would, working on this today after our call, maybe just have it read like that. So again, the ordinance will update the Moab Municipal Code by repealing and replacing section 1320.030 to include daytime irrigation restrictions. And then same thing here in terms of the enactment, we would just again reference the section instead of this new chapter that we'd be creating. Everything else in the now therefore be it ordained section would be the same. In terms of the actual ordinance itself, the first part of this section is redundant to Title 13. This needed to be there if we were going to put it in Chapter 8, but we don't need it if it's going to be in Title 13. So I would recommend deleting the purpose and scope and applicability because you already have similar language in Title 13. And then I would take these other standards, and these would pretty much remain exactly the same as you've seen, but in order for them to conform to the numbering format as a section, it would require these edits, most of which are just numbering changes. But the terminology would be the same. Of course, I swapped out chapter for section for it to conform, but all of that language, essentially the meat of the ordinance, the 8-to-8 watering restrictions, and then the various exceptions would all remain as currently drafted with the change of swapping out chapter references to section references. And then lastly, because we have a violation and enforcement and relief and remedy section already in Title 13, these sections are redundant and I would recommend that they would be removed. The summary to the ordinance would also be changed to mirror the language above, namely that we're repealing and placing section 1320.030 to include daytime irrigation restrictions. And those are the only changes that I would recommend.
Okay. Yeah. Do we have any questions or?
No, just to clarify, go back to Alexi's initial slide, one of her initial slides. This is only water that's controlled by the city of Moab. Is that right?
That's right.
Culinary water. Irrigation companies are exempt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have the jurisdiction to regulate water through the irrigation companies.
Okay.
And we don't have cans here. Like we don't have pressurized irrigation here, do we? Like so like people aren't going to be using irrigation water to run oscillating sprinklers.
People do project. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But
And so I would like to make sure that there's some wording in there that makes sure the irrigation company is not included in that because the way that's worded,
Yeah.
my phone blew up today.
Yeah.
Well, and I know that I did see a line in there that said Moab culinary water or something like that. It was underlined in there and stuff. So yeah, and that was kind of my thing too. Is like we have no jurisdiction over the Moab irrigation company, you know, and it doesn't have anything to do with that. It doesn't have anything to do with any like the school district that's on wells, you know, or those, right?
Yeah, we can only regulate the water we
Yeah.
provide as a service provider.
And I would suggest that there may be some educational piece like signage at places like the school district saying like, you know, irrigated with well water, Mill Creek Pueblo saying, you know, projection of, you know, Moab Irrigation Company water, you know, whatever, something so that the optics are there so that people are not seeing water being projected at 4 p.m.
eggs at their house.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
I'm saying, you know, why I got in trouble. How come they?
Exactly. Yeah. And I also want to point out that this, you know, a lot of my comfort with this being an ordinance comes from the fact that, you know, we've been learning, you know, I think Corey's done a really good job recently of talking to us about, you know, the changes that we've made to our department, formerly known as code enforcement, to be a little bit softer handed with, you know, education and engagement before, you know, ever getting to the more punitive stages of that process. And you know, the reinventing of that process has been really, and that department to be a much more, you know, community minded and educationally and outreach focused department. I think pairs really nicely with the educational component here. And also, you know, the comfort too comes from, you know, this is, you know, I do think this is water is something that government should be, you know, taking part in the enforcement and education of, because it is just so critical. And I've had a lot of questions about, you know, do we, you know, what are we basing this on? What, you know, what is the water that's available to the city? And I think that my inability to answer that is exactly why we really need to manage this, because we just don't have a very clear picture of what our water resource is. And I think that, you know, that to a lot of us is a pretty scary thing, and especially in these times. And so, you know, this is, I appreciate the path we're going with this. So thank you. Thanks, Lex.
I had a couple questions that I had. Nathan, do you still have a question, or your hand just up?
I want to make a point. Yeah, that was one of the concerns I had with it being in Title 8, that I think it gave the misperception that it was applying more broadly than the city has jurisdiction to apply. Whereas if it's in Title 13, Title 13 is specific to the city's water system. That said, you know, if you wanted to, we could take the scope and applicability section. I think it's a little redundant, but we could just say something like, this is what it says now. This section shall apply to the control of all water uses and operations that the city provides through waterworks systems or water rights the city owns and operates or otherwise controls. We could just add that to the section if there's concerns about the optics. But that was part of my reasoning for why I think it fits better in Title 13, because Title 13 is specific to the city's water infrastructure.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's great. Yeah, and I also think that too, like as we advertise this, or if it passes, you know, we're pretty explicit in that this is only for, you know, that we do not have jurisdiction over, you know, other waters, you know, well water, you know, irrigation, whatever. There.
Yeah, well, I would hope that, you know, that those folks that are using Moab irrigation and well water will follow our example. So that would be my hope. But
the irrigation users don't often have a choice.
Yeah, they're on time.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. And the only other question I had that was kind of was a concern for me is that is there 8 and 8? You know, is that or is there science behind between 8 and 8? You know, or could it be till 10 in the morning? I looked at like a lot of other areas, like in California, and you know, all across the Southwest. A lot of people do kind of have this ordinance, you know, but some of those said like 10 o'clock, you know, and I thought, and I got thinking a little bit about that, and I know that there's a lot of people who do have lawns in this valley or in town, but they don't have automatic sprinkler systems, you know. So you have a lot of older people maybe, you know, or you know, that are they going to be under this thing that they can only water their lawns at night, and they're going to be up at night, moving their sprinkler systems around at 10 midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, checking on their hose, exactly. And would there be any appetite to maybe change that to 10 a.m. to give those users, more time to who don't have automatic sprinkler systems to allow them to water their lawns, or is it like after 8 o'clock, 60% of what you put down evaporates, so we don't want to, I just wondering if I'm concerned about that part of the valley or of residents.
I mean, so I kind of wanted to speak to several things that were said. Colin, I love your idea of people who are using, like working with a partnership with Moab Irrigation Company or otherwise, and people who are using well water to water their properties. If they felt like putting up a sign that said something along the lines of like, watered with well water, watered with irrigation water, to help the optics of that, I think that would go a long way, because that's been one of the criticisms I've heard is like, well, I see my neighbor over there watering and I don't know what they're watering with. And it would help ease a little of the frustration around things like this. I'm curious to the science of what you were talking about, Jason. Like, I also wonder if instead of like 10, because that's working into the hotter part of the day where we're going to see more evaporation, if maybe, the 7 o'clock, because it's light a fair bit in the evening. So maybe we could move that evening number up. And even though it is warm, it is progressively getting cooler. And frankly, I'm sure there's some amount of science that could tell us which one of those would be more effective. And I don't mind that idea at all. But I think it's really important to note that, like, when we discuss water, oftentimes we'll have folks talk about, well, the well isn't, like, we're not seeing a drop in the water level at our wells, and therefore we're not worried about our water. But our wells and our aquifers are refilled by the amount of infiltration that occurs in our soil. And at the end of the day, if our soil moisture levels stay as low as they do or have been this year in the LaSalle's, we're seeing less infiltration and therefore less recharge of our aquifer. And so I really appreciate the staff and everyone getting together and being willing to address something like this and really understand the long-term consequence that could come from these dry years, not just how it's affecting our wells this year.
Yeah. Darren?
Yeah, I think that's something, Miles, I like that idea, Jason, to like maybe look at the timing, but again, that's something that we could amend. If we start this year, give us a chance to kind of get a sense of how realistic 8 to 8 is. I'm sure we'll be hearing from people about it if it's not going to work for them. And then we could amend the ordinance once we get a better picture of what timing would really work best for the most community members. Just an idea.
Yeah, and I would like to see that this not, that right now, at least for this year, it not be a bring the hammer down hard on people, that this is an education year for the rest of the year, that I think there's something like $1,000 fine or something like that, or
Yeah, that would be our standard practice, is to work to educate people first, voluntary compliance, and only going after doing the fines and things like that for the most egregious cases.
And there is like, and I do like how there's exemptions for people who are putting in, who need the irrigation more regularly. There was that they can get exemptions for that sort of stuff. So I thought that was good. All right, I'm willing, or we're willing. Nathan has his hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of things. So just on the enforcement, part of the other reason why I thought Title 13 made more sense is 1320 220, which governs all your enforcement for water use, is a little bit more nuanced than what was in this initially. And it has may assess penalties. So it's not a shall, it's not a will, whereas the original language was someone who does this will automatically be guilty of something. And so I think that the existing enforcement provision gives the flexibility that you're already asking for. The other question I would have is if the council is prepared to act on this tonight, would you like me to reinsert the purpose language into this section, or I'm sorry, the scope and applicability, namely to make it sure that this section, and I quote, shall apply to the control of all water uses and operations that the city provides through waterworks systems or water rights the city owns and operates or otherwise controls. Just that was already in there. I think it's a little duplicative of what you have in the title, but I don't see any harm in reinserting that into the section language if there's concerns that this could be applied to other people's water systems or water rights that you don't control.
Yes, please.
I think it'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, I've added it.
Okay.
I guess, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think not regardless of science, but I think that like I want to take kind of like a common sense approach to this first, something that, because my timer doesn't work on my irrigation. Like I am a person that's turning my irrigation on at 9 a.m. before I go to work, for example. So I definitely think there's a lot of people like that. And looking at KSL actually put out a story, I think across the state, it seems like it's pretty common to do like 10 to 6. So that would be my preference, is like starting more narrow, starting in the like worst times of day where obviously it's going to evaporate immediately. And as we go more and more towards potentially needing to hit this water shortage plan, greater restrictions, more drought, we expand that further, but kind of making it more approachable for people. And I think honestly easier for it to be enforced, because it's a shorter window of time where, you know, officers are driving around looking for this. So that would be my preference suggested amendment. I think also because this is going to impact so many people, it would still be my preference to table and renotice the new ordinance for the next meeting. Because yeah, I agree with the mayor. I think that once we have it on the books, it's a short period of this season, but it just will be on the books for next season. So I'm personally okay with having a little bit longer enactment window, just so that everyone's kind of in the loop on it.
I'd like to point out something that's kind of adjacent to the discussion, but I think is important to point out in this meeting. Utah Water Savers Program does offer a rebate of up to $100 to purchase a smart irrigation controller. So if you're in a position of your irrigation controller not functioning, or they make ones that simply attach at the hose, so you don't have to have an irrigation system, but if you irrigate with your hose and you would like it to be timed, that rebate would absolutely cover several of the sprinkler timers that are available locally. And so I'm just pointing that out for the public so that you know, if you're in that position, that you can apply through the Water Savers Program and get an EPA WaterSense sprinkler and get a little bit of a rebate on it.
So would it be an issue, since we are changing, we are altering this? Could we change it to like 10 to 6?
Yeah, you could include, if someone wanted to do a motion based on what the attorney has presented in chapter 13 and include any amendments you want for that, you would just insert that into your motion. Or if you wanted to talk about and get an agreement before, it would still be part of the motion. Or but yeah.
Michael, what I would recommend is I've been kind of revising what I displayed before to accommodate for the discussion so to date. So I've included that disclaimer that it only applies to the city things, and I could make the change to the time, and then I could present that, and then you could just move on that as revised. That might be an easier motion.
What do you?
Assuming there's a consensus on the time.
Well, what are we talking about? 10 to 7 or 7 p.m. to 10 a.m. restriction? Is that what you put in there?
Right now it's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So we can change that to what my suggestion is. Let's change it, and then I can present the motion as the ordinance as revised, and then the council could act on it as revised.
So is there consensus on doing? Would that be something that you'd feel all right with to run it through tonight, or you just want to table it? I guess if we did 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. no watering.
Right. I'm inclined to get it on the books. Like I,
I kind of am too, and see, and I like that. I like your approach of changing that time.
I almost, yeah, I feel like we can amend the time next year if this doesn't quite work or whatever. So the time
least
doesn't
get
have to be
something.
perfect, but it'd be nice to get something on the books.
Yeah.
We kind of did a lot of run up to it. I'd like to see us make it happen.
Okay. All right, it's right there. Okay. Any more discussion, or someone want to make a motion? And I don't know what the motion
I'm
is.
not sure what.
If you agree with the changes that the attorney has presented, you could motion to approve the amendment as presented by the city attorney.
You would approve the ordinance as amended, as advised by the county attorney.
As a city attorney, yes, that's correct, Mayor.
City, sorry. Wrong
I'll-
entity.
I'll give it a shot. I move to approve the ordinance repealing and replacing 13.20.030, implementing the daytime watering restrictions with all text revisions discussed with our attorney tonight.
Does that work? Can you second?
Second.
Does that work?
Okay.
I think it works.
Okay, we got a motion made by Miles, seconded by Tawny. Miles.
I just want to make clear that we are adjusting that watering window from 10 to 6 to be as kind to those who don't have time sprinklers as possible this year. And if there's any way to make a note that we possibly readdress this somewhere next year, and when we have a little bit of data as to how that works and how that conservation is actually occurring.
So that note could be made, I could include that in the ordinance, or it could be included as a note in the minutes.
Let's do a note in the minutes.
Yeah.
I think that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay. Tawny?
No, I'm good.
Anyone else? I think I'm good too. Okay, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion made by Miles and seconded by Tawny, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, passes 5-0. Okay, so the next consideration is consideration 6.7, the consideration of resolution 13.206, a resolution authorizing directing city manager to declare a water shortage. I think we've kind of taken care of this. If no one makes a motion, it just dies. But if someone does want to make a motion, we can definitely do that because it's on the agenda.
Could I ask, one of the things we wanted to have Obi, and he's not available for this meeting. So Michael, I know he gave you some notes, because one of the reasons why we would go to stage 3, it would be because we don't have enough supply to meet demand. And I don't believe that's the case. So Michael, would you mind?
Yeah, that is the case. I did talk to Obi about this. Alexi has talked to Obi about this as well. And our supply, we are good on our supply. We are able to make enough water to meet needs, and we are seeing our needs going down as well as according to the graphs that we saw. So we don't feel like there's support from a water shortage itself to implement the water shortage plan.
Lexi, do you want to go over your slide presentation?
Yeah. Basically what this would do is it would implement stage 3 that implements a number of restrictions beyond water timing. So the 8 to 8 was originally because of hot times of day. And then the reason it was in the ordinance was because it matched the water shortage plan. We will update water shortage plan as well, so we can make them match. But in addition to limiting watering to more restrictive times of day, it would also limit more than just overhead sprinkler watering. There are not exemptions in here for the type of sprinkler or type of watering system you're using. It also would limit vehicle washing, laundry, hotels and things like that would have to be at request of guests only for multiple night stays. It would limit misters and sprinklers and other recreational toys and aesthetic uses, which mostly includes like fountains or water features, things like that. as well as pavement washing. So it's much more restrictive, and it would be implemented until I believe September is the date that we put in there because it'd be end of irrigation season. The recommendation of staff is to take no action on this and just let it go and then revisit it if the conditions change in such a way that we have a water shortage.
May I ask you a question? Under private watering, it says 3 days per week, but that wasn't in the language that was discussed under 13.
No.
Okay, no. Okay.
No, this is just in the emergency plan.
Okay.
All right.
I'm in favor of take no action.
Okay.
I appreciate us taking a surgical approach instead of a hammer to this issue. And I appreciate that the public is doing to reduce their water usage. It's kind of cool to see us reach out with all this outreach and say, hey, we're having a hard year. The public's been pretty great about a couple issues. We kind of had a win with the fireworks too. So this is nice to see.
Yeah.
I can make a comment. I'd like to thank the city for the outreach that's happened. The irrigation company, we've not had a lot of water. Our flows are way down.
Yeah.
My phone has not rung once with a complaint. Why don't I have water and what can we do to get the water?
Nice.
Because the people understand what's going on. We have the authority to ask Grand Water to turn on wells and pump water for us into the irrigation system when we have needs like this. Well, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we reached the point where we normally would have had to turn on those wells due to demand of the irrigation users. We haven't. And we still haven't turned the wells on. And now with the monsoon, it's come up a little bit. And so we're looking good at this point. We may have to later in August, but we thought we were going to have to in June. So there are things that we've been doing in the irrigation company. We're trying to organize schedules so that people can water at night if they're not forced to in the day. There are some exceptions, if I have to. We've got users that are installing cisterns and sprinkling at night. We've got people that are using boosters and doing more efficient methods, filters to be able to do drip. So all these methods are working, and your outreach is working with the Moab Irrigation Company shareholders. So thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's a great way to end a meeting. That's very.
Good way.
I would like to add one comment. I just want to point out that the water shortage response plan that we approved last year, the tiers of emergency basis, they're based on the supply we have relative, or the demand we have relative to the supply. And I just want to let the community know that the city is actively working right now on increasing the supply, which would accommodate more demand as things progress. And so, and also, make it so that we are moving down these tiers in emergency much slower and having greater and greater restrictions. So this is something that the city is actively working on with a large, water tank out on Spanish Trail. So.
Really quickly, can you identify yourself just for the minutes so we can get that recorded?
My name is Kenneth Miner. I'm the president of the Moab Irrigation Company.
Perfect. Thank you.
And he thinks we're doing a good job.
You're right, Ted.
Way to go.
Don't tell the mayor I did that or I'll get fired. All right. Well, that is it for our general business, and we will move on to
Sorry.
Yeah.
I wanted you to see.
Oh, I knew their side was here.
Yeah. So this is something that we developed and before this, and our compliance officers had these to hand out as like a friendly reminder that we could have restrictions coming. So the plan is to update this to reflect what you actually passed, and it'll go out as a postcard to just let people know what the new restriction is and what it would mean and give them other ideas for reducing their water use.
Oh, cool. So that'll be sent to every home in the city limits.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Yeah.
And And it's actively being used right now, as she said.
It's being handed out right now, and then we will mail it now that we know what is going to happen.
Okay, cool. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
But we'll be in education mode for a while. Yes.
Thanks, Alexi.
I guess,
for-
Alexi, one other note on that too. I think it's probably good to just keep it as full landscaping, but in the blurb about mandatory that it's just sprinklers. I actually think it's okay, but flagging that it was.
And I think we will also update to like have the clarification that it is our culinary water and not people's irrigation chairs. But yeah, we'll do some updates and then we'll get that ready to go.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Now we're done with our general business and we'll go to start with city manager and city manager updates.
Okay. So I've got a couple of updates for you. The first one I want to talk about is something you may have heard about in the news recently, and that's the Moab Free Health Clinic through David Olson has applied for and received a grant for some trailside type of exercise equipment. This is the kind of thing that I did go through our Parks Master Plan. This kind of stuff is in our Parks Master Plan. In fact, 23% of the people who were surveyed through the master plan process said that they'd like to see these types of things. We did meet with David. We talked, Lexi and I met with him. We walked around with him. He wanted our advice on a few different things, a few different properties, I should say. Some of them were ours and some of them were theirs. We felt like the best place to place, the best location for this equipment was on property that the city owned. And that's property that is on, what would it be, First West, as you're walking from Second South towards the pedestrian bridge. There's a large area that is generally out of the flooded area that would stay dry and be right on the trail for people to do push-ups and sit-ups and pull-ups and whatever you want.
What are those?
They're bars.
No, what is this sit-up?
Oh,
what is this sit-up that you talk about?
Oh, I've only heard of it. So. But these are pieces of equipment that have minimal moving parts. If we are to accept this donation, which I think is a really good idea, the city would own these. We want to make it really clear, though, that we would not be guaranteeing any lifespan for these or replacement if they were to wear out. That would be based on how much the community uses them and how popular they are. But we do appreciate working with our partners on things like this because we do think that it brings a type of amenity to the community that is appreciated.
It'd be like the exercise equipment at my house. I just put my clothes on.
Yeah. These for the condos there, you can use these now to dry your clothes. No, please don't. But I would be happy to bring you a schematic of what these look like at our next meeting so that you can see what we're talking about here.
I'd love to see that.
All right, so next thing, we do have some, let's see, I have to bring up grants. So we do have a lot of grants going on. And I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to start bringing up grants basically every couple of weeks. We've got Val, who's working in our office, who's applying for a lot of grants. If we have a project out there and there's a grant that could match that project, even if we plan to pay for that project through CIP or something, especially if we plan to pay for it through CIP, Val will see these grants and we will go after them to see if we can have a little bit of ease on our budget so we can save a little bit of money. So there's a lot of that going on, and I wanted to just bring up a few of the grants that Val's working on. You already know about the BRIC application on 300 South Bridge, the Rural Health Transportation Access Grant, which is a UDOT grant that there's $11 million available over the next 5 years. And this would be specific to active transportation. So we have a lot of active transportation needs. One of the things that Val has identified is that it's not in this budget cycle, but in a future budget cycle, we will need to be replacing some pedestrian bridges. If you haven't heard, for a while, salt was used on the bridges for melting ice, and that has caused some damage to the steel. Members of those So in the future, we will be looking at replacement of some bridges. And then we also have areas where we are looking at plans right now where we could need bridges in the future. So he's looking at that. He's got a fact sheet I'd be happy to send out to everybody, but that's something that you potentially could hear about. It's not something that we have in our budget this year to replace any bridges, but it could be something that we could use. And if we got the money, we could potentially move a project like that up, especially if it's being paid for by UDOT. So the MAT Shade Shelters is another grant. It's going through UDOT. We are looking at applying for a grant to have some shade shelters at our bus stops. This would be UDOT as well, and this is due in September, something you may hear about as well. This is something, again, where we don't have a project for this right now, but if it's something that we could potentially get funding for, this might not be a bad idea for us to look at. So all of these decisions on whether or not we move projects forward, accept grants, use the money towards what we're proposing, all of these decisions come through the city council, and you would be the ones making the decisions on all of these. But we want to give you as many good decisions or many options to make good decisions as possible. So I just wanted to bring that up. And then I've asked Val to just kind of give me an update every couple of weeks. And if there's anything new, I'll try to bring it up every couple of weeks. So, and then I had just a couple more just really quick. Business licensing. Just if you have a business license and you haven't renewed it yet with the city of Moab, time is running out. You need to get that in really quick. It is late at this point, but being late is better than missing the deadline and having to reapply for your business license. A renewal is much easier than reapplying for your business license. I also wanted to bring up the July 24 celebrations that our staff participated in out here at the park. I was able to stop by for a few minutes, and I just want to say thanks for our staff looking out for these community type of activities. I think they mean a lot to the community. When I was down there, we had a lot of people. There were a lot of people there, a lot of people eating ice cream and playing cornhole and making little pies and all kinds of fun stuff. And it was our Mark employees who put that on with coordination with some other groups in town, and they did an amazing job. And I'm not going to brag about Public Works anymore because we've heard from them already, but they are doing an excellent job. Every time it looks like it's going to rain, Levi's texting me saying, I got guys out there, we're checking on things. We just put the signs down, and I do appreciate that and all the work that they do. They're doing an excellent job in trying to keep this community as safe as we can. So
I think they probably did invite us to the cornhole tournament because they knew we'd win.
Intimidated, yeah.
yeah. Your reputation precedes you.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thank you.
That's
some great stuff. All right, we'll do individual council reports. Miles, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I had a bunch of things, but I will try to synthesize. For the most part, the two things I really wanted to talk about were the Planning Commission. We had one meeting in the interim, and they discussed sign code and a few odds and ends. I wanted to point out again, we're really grateful for these new appointments. It's been difficult for Planning Commission to meet and form a quorum, so really excited to have some new people on and be able to move ahead. But Corey is working diligently with some of these code updates, Johanna as well, and really excited to see more of that come together. And then Gwissa was the other one that I wanted to kind of dig through. They're working through the refab of that cemetery well that we signed the new contract with them with. And then for those of you living south of town in the county, Gwissa and Alpine Excavation, I believe, is working diligently to deal with that new water line down there. But if you're wondering what all the excavators and construction is going on down in the Holyoke area, that's new water line going in. Otherwise, I wanted to point out that we're all grateful for the rain. And that is not that data is not in the lake data that I got from Gwissa last. But before all that rain was coming in, we were matched with 2021 at a low point in the lake. And while Gwissa is pumping to refill the lake, about 200 acre feet went into the lake out of our aquifer, out of the Valley Fill aquifer. 400 acre feet came out of the lake, so for a net loss of approximately 200 acre feet. So just keeping that kind of thing in perspective. The soil moisture was also amazingly low before it started raining, at approximately 4%. Really hoping that's a different figure next Thursday when I get to see the folks from Gwissa. Otherwise, I made it briefly to a summer concert series. It's nice to see the community out. I wanted to thank the community for the response on the 4th of July. I heard from PD that there was not one incident of an illegal firework, and that is really, really awesome. So thank you all for that. That's me.
That's it. All right, Caitlin.
I don't have a ton. Going all the way back, I had a meeting with the mayor on June 30th with Jason.
I was just looking at that, like, what did I have? I do.
The mayor,
Tawny.
It's like almost some other guy. I don't remember who was there. But lots of good conversation updates. Echo 4th of July parade. It was amazing. I didn't make it out to very, very much, but heard great things and really appreciate OSTA and all the work that they put in to that. Free concert series has been amazing. I've been to all of them. They are one of my favorite things about summer in Moab, getting to see everyone there. The local homeless council meeting was canceled this month, but the housing task force did meet. There's a deed restriction group that's continuing to move forward on some research and like a little internal survey trying to figure out the direction the task force wants to go with a potential voluntary deed restriction program. And likely that survey will be distributed out to the public to see if there is community interest in deed restricting your house voluntarily. The task force is also hosting a housing town hall on August 12th, Wednesday, which is a Wednesday. It's the day after our next meeting. At the Mark at 6:30, there will be a number of vendors across all kinds of housing sectors. They're tabling in the lobby, and then we will have a panel discussion with Corey and city, county, and private sector folks. So should be a great time. I'll be moderating and just looking forward to that. I think it'll be a great conversation about where we're at with housing, especially with all the conversations about pipeline and the apartments coming in, what's coming next. Where are we at? Where are we going? And that is about it for me.
Colin?
Met with the mayor on the 1st of July, and then on the 14th, I had a trail mix meeting. We had the working group, which I'm a part of for bike access into arches, came and did a presentation, got some feedback. Also had an exciting to me, but should be exciting to the city for especially the city's budget, that trail mix voted to recommend the county commission to lobby the BLM to expand the parking lot of the brands temporarily for events, so that now the Moab area, whether it's Grand County or Spanish Valley or San Juan County within the valley, can host as many as 6 NICA races in the fall. Each of these will bring 5,000 to 7,000 people staying in hotels, eating at restaurants. So it's a big bump, and then a really wonderful thing for a huge number of local youth. The next day on the 15th, we just had the bike access working group had just a follow-up meeting. That evening I had a solid waste meeting. Just want to point out that the solid waste is for the first time since I've been involved in that organization, is getting to a point where it's actually becoming a financially solvent organization. Solvent, the right question? Is that So the right
That's
term?
good.
That's good. That's what came out. That's right. Good.
Totally.
And so, what's important to the city for that is that, the solid waste district among, in addition to its huge, bond payment that, for the purchase of monument waste many years ago, that still is about 10 years to go on it, is also looking at the very imminent closure of Moab landfill. What a lot of us don't think about when we're voting to, approve, big market rate apartment buildings and affordable apartment buildings and, pushing public works to get Walnut Lane cleaned out, is that all of the byproduct of all that goes somewhere. And in this case, it goes to Moab landfill, and Moab landfill has absolutely exploded this spring. It's had, just record-breaking numbers of materials coming up there, and the timeline for its lifespan has been dramatically reduced because of this spring. And so solid waste is working so hard, and I can't give enough shout outs to Chris Scoville, who's, turned that operation around incredibly in 2 years. And, the solid waste district will be able to, I have full expectation the solid waste district will be able to handle in-house that closure. Whereas if they weren't, which they were 2 years ago, that would fall on the city of Moab and then the county of Grant County, because of their financial insurances to getting those closed. And so I can't say enough about how well Chris is doing. I know there's been some, with some other topics, some, throwing under the bus of the solid waste district, but I can absolutely testify that organization is doing amazingly, and we're all benefiting from it and we don't know it. And so then we had on the 28th today, I had a Moab Tailing Steering Committee, and the exciting thing that I learned there was, the pile has been removed and they're onto the sub pile and the off pile, and the way that they're working the sub pile, everything that was underneath that pile is what's called down posting. And so the original pile spanned about 140 acres, and so they've made it into a grid, and they take each section of this grid starting at the outside and keep digging down material and testing and digging down and testing until they get into a safe measurement. And so they start at the outside of these grids and are working in. So now they've moved that pile of that contaminated area down to about 100 acres. And they're still moving in. So well on track to be moving the last bit of that pile, sub pile and off pile next year, 2027. And yeah, great work out there. Thank you.
Nice. Funny.
I don't have a whole lot. I did have a meeting with the mayor, and I think it was on the 2nd or the 3rd. It's been a month. That's far too long for me to remember. I had a meeting with museum staff regarding some fundraising efforts that we're looking at doing, and our strategic planning meeting that's coming up in August. And yesterday, the Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District held interviews with the 4 finalists that answered our RFP to move on development of the MAPS project. That's about it.
All right. I don't have a whole lot either. On June 30th, I met with the mayor and Caitlin, and 4th, I was in the parade. I did have an airport board meeting, and we talked a little bit about, the new contract with the new air service and trying to get it up and going and pushing forward as quick as possible. The airport's pretty torn up right now. They're repaving a bunch of the tarmac up there, and it's kind of a mess, but it's going to be super nice once they get that done. And then also I attended the free concert series. I love the free concert series as well. And I love summer in Moab because you just like riding or, going around, you got the ball fields packed, with people playing, there's the free movie night, they do out on the lawn, stuff. There's just so much cool stuff going on. I think like July and December are just, these bookend months, where there's just a lot going on. And we don't do a lot of meetings at once either, you know. Always a fun. I was able to pop in for the trail mix thing, which was great. It was great to see all the hard work that's going on there, and that those guys meet when it's 115 degrees. They meet outside, and I admire that. You know, and that's, you know, but that's basically all I have. Pretty quiet month for me myself. Mayor, do you want to?
Yes, thanks. Just a reminder to everybody, the Voices to Votes exhibit at the Mark will be ending. I believe it's this weekend. If you haven't gone to see that, I encourage you to go. It's a great exhibit from the Smithsonian. We don't often see that high quality of an exhibit in our facility. So please go and see that. Catherine Kitterman, if you did go, they gave a booklet out that had a great history of our democracy in America. And the woman that did that, Catherine Kitterman, is going to be at the Mark this Thursday at 5:30. So I encourage anybody that's interested in our democracy to go to that lecture this Thursday at 5:30. Primarily, I've been focusing on the Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District MAPS completion RFP process. We did receive 9 proposals, and we're going to interview 4 candidates, 4 consulting firms. We interviewed 2 on Monday and then another 2 next week, and we'll make our decision. And once we get the consultants on board, we'll be putting together a stakeholder group. And Caitlin, I'm thinking about you. If you have some time, I'll talk to you about it. It'd be great to have you on that stakeholder group, because this is kind of a senior housing project. It's more than that, but it'll be great to get that expertise. Got a call from Senator Curtis about the funding request that we put in for flood mitigation. Michael mentioned that earlier when we approved the consent agenda. But it's called the Water Redevelopment Act. And we were able to get our flood mitigation studies into that act. And that bill is probably going to pass. It's part of the appropriations, but it's really part of the Army Corps of Engineers. And once you get your foot in the door, it opens up a variety of different opportunities for funding from the Army Corps, from the Bureau of Reclamation, and several other water entities within the federal government that allows us to get bigger grants. So hopefully, once we find that once that bill is passed, we're going to get right on it, get our feasibility studies to the Army Corps, and then get our foot in the door for money, particularly for the 300 South Bridge and other flooding mitigations. But it was good to hear from the senator. And I know he's been in town down in Beaver working with them, but positive regarding that. We'll know more. I mean, the budget process at the federal level is like it always is. They're not going to pass a budget. They're going to do I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but so far, basically because it's an election year, we doubt that there's going to be any kind of budget passed until after the election. So we'll know more about the request that we made for the water tank and for the transit study in a couple of months. We feel positive about it, but until they pass the budget, we just don't know. And then, as I mentioned, as you all mentioned, you met with me the last time a month ago. I'd like to meet with you guys again next week before our next meeting. So Sasha will be reaching out with you all to schedule a time for us to meet next week. If you have some time, that would be great. And that's it for me.
Okay. All right. We do need to go into closed session, so I'll entertain a motion to
Make a motion to go into closed session.
Second that.
Okay.
Thank you guys for.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for your service. Thanks, Ken.
They keep your brain working with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your service.
So, Jason, before you walk away, I think the motion needs to go into closed session. You need to state the reason we're going to the closed session. There's 2 items.
Thank you.
Okay, I make a motion to go into closed session to discuss reasonably imminent or pending litigation and to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property.
Second.
Okay. Now we did it right.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Levi, you want to stick around for a sec? No, you're